Marcus cornered the new hire in the break room, his coffee mug shaking with barely contained rage. "You people come here and steal jobs from real Americans," Marcus spat, blocking Arjun's path to the microwave. His voice carried across the silent room where other employees froze, pretending not to watch. "Tell me, how exactly did someone like you get Jenkins' position?" Arjun Patel clutched his steel lunch container, meeting Marcus's hostile glare with steady eyes. "I went through the same application process as everyone." "Diversity hire," Marcus cut him off with a bitter laugh. "We all know how this works. Company needs to check a box, and suddenly qualifications don't matter." The tension was suffocating. Sarah from accounting stared at her magazine. David from IT edged toward the door. Marcus leaned closer, his whisper more menacing than any shout. "Some of us won't just smile and pretend this is okay." Little did Marcus know that tomorrow morning this diversity hire would walk into the executive conference room as his new boss, and karma was about to teach him the most humbling lesson of his career. The break room remained frozen in uncomfortable silence. Every eye was on Arjun, waiting to see if he would explode, fight back, or crumble under Marcus's verbal assault. Instead, Arjun took a slow, measured breath. His hands steady despite the humiliation burning in his chest, he simply nodded toward Marcus with quiet dignity. "I understand you're frustrated," Arjun said softly, his accent adding weight to each carefully chosen word. "Change can be difficult for everyone." Marcus scoffed. "Don't patronize me with your—" "I'm not patronizing anyone." Arjun's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath the surface. "I'm here to do good work, just like you are." He stepped around Marcus toward the microwave, refusing to be intimidated. The small act of defiance sent a clear message. He wouldn't be pushed around, but he also wouldn't stoop to Marcus's level. Sarah from accounting finally looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of sympathy and admiration for Arjun's composure. David lingered in the doorway, clearly uncomfortable with what he'd witnessed. "This isn't over," Marcus muttered, dumping his coffee in the sink with unnecessary force. As Marcus stormed out, Arjun quietly heated his lunch, his hands betraying the slightest tremor. The other employees began to disperse, shooting him apologetic glances and supportive nods. What none of them realized was that Arjun had been in situations like this before, and tomorrow, everyone in that room would discover just how wrong their assumptions about him really were. The next morning, Marcus strutted into the conference room with his usual swagger, coffee in hand and a smirk on his face. He'd spent the night telling his wife about putting that foreigner in his place and felt particularly pleased with himself. The entire regional team was assembled, 15 employees cramped around the polished oak table, murmuring about the mysterious important announcement from corporate headquarters. "Wonder what this is about," Marcus said loudly to his buddy Jake. "Probably another diversity seminar." He chuckled at his own joke, oblivious to the uncomfortable shifts around the table. Regional Manager Patricia Williams entered with a professional smile. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for gathering on short notice. As you know, corporate has been restructuring, and I'm excited to introduce our new regional director." Marcus leaned back in his chair, already mentally preparing his complaints about whoever they'd probably hired from outside the company. "Please welcome Arjun Patel, who will be overseeing all regional operations effective immediately." The door opened. Arjun walked in wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, carrying a leather briefcase, his shoulders squared with quiet confidence. Marcus's coffee mug slipped from his fingers, shattering against the floor an explosion of ceramic and brown liquid. The color drained from his face as if someone had pulled a plug. Around the table, jaws dropped. Sarah gasped audibly. David's eyes went wide with recognition and something that looked like justice. Arjun's gaze swept the room professionally before settling on Marcus with the slightest hint of acknowledgement. "Good morning, everyone," Arjun said with calm authority. "I look forward to working with each of you." Arjun moved to the head of the table with quiet confidence while Marcus remained frozen in his chair, still staring in disbelief. The shattered coffee mug lay forgotten at his feet. "I know this transition may come as a surprise to some of you," Arjun began, his voice carrying easily through the silent room. "But I want you to know that my door is always open, and I believe in leading through collaboration, not intimidation." His eyes briefly met Marcus's, a moment of understanding passing between them that only they could fully comprehend. "In my experience, the strongest teams are built on mutual respect, and the recognition that our differences, our varied backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences are not obstacles to overcome but strengths to embrace. Patricia nodded approvingly from her seat. Several team members leaned forward, intrigued by his approach. I've worked in offices across 3 continents, Arjun continued, and I've learned that when people feel valued and heard, they produce their best work. Not because they're forced to, but because they want to contribute to something meaningful. He paused, letting his words sink in before delivering what felt like a direct message to Marcus. As Gandhi once said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." I believe we can create that change right here, in this room, starting today. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, his earlier bravado completely evaporated. The man he'd dismissed as unqualified was speaking with the authority and wisdom of someone who'd clearly earned his position. My philosophy is simple, Arjun concluded with a gentle smile. Treat others as you would want to be treated, and success will follow naturally. 3 days later, an email appeared in everyone's inbox. Team lunch, Thursday 12:30 p.m., Conference Room B. Please join me for a meal and conversation. Arjun. Marcus stared at his computer screen, his stomach churning. He'd been avoiding Arjun since the announcement, taking different routes through the office and eating lunch at his desk. But this wasn't optional. It was clearly a team-building initiative from their new boss. Thursday arrived, and the conference room had been transformed. Colorful tablecloths covered the usual sterile tables, and the air was filled with aromatic scents that made everyone's mouth water despite their curiosity. Welcome, everyone. Arjun greeted them warmly, gesturing to an impressive spread of dishes. I thought it would be nice to share some food from my culture. Biryani, samosas, dal, naan bread, and some sweets for dessert. Sarah's eyes lit up. This smells incredible. I've never tried Indian food before. That's exactly why I wanted to do this. Arjun smiled. Food has a way of bringing people together. Please help yourselves, and I'd love to hear about dishes from your own families and backgrounds. As people filled their plates, conversations began naturally. David shared stories about his grandmother's Italian recipes, Patricia talked about her southern comfort food traditions, and even quiet Jake opened up about his Korean mother's kimchi. Marcus hung back, watching this cultural exchange with growing unease. Part of him wanted to leave, but part of him was genuinely curious about the man he'd so quickly judged. Arjun noticed his hesitation and approached with a gentle smile. Marcus, you should try the biryani, my wife's recipe. It's quite popular back home. For the first time, Marcus saw Arjun not as a threat, but as a person with a family, traditions, and stories just like everyone else. The following Monday morning shattered any sense of calm. Patricia burst into the office at 7:45 a.m., her usually composed demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. Emergency team meeting now, she announced, her voice cutting through the morning coffee conversations. Within minutes, the entire team was assembled in the conference room, sensing the gravity of the situation. Arjun entered last, his expression serious but controlled. Our biggest client, Meridian Industries, is threatening to pull their contract, Patricia announced without preamble. They claim our last quarterly report contained errors, and they want a complete audit and revision by Friday, or they walk. A collective gasp filled the room. Meridian represented 30% of their regional revenue. Losing them would mean layoffs, possibly half the team. That's impossible. Marcus blurted out, his face pale. The Meridian project involves 6 departments and thousands of data points. We'd need at least 3 weeks to... He moved to the whiteboard with quiet determination. Sarah, I need you to coordinate with accounting for the financial reconciliation. David, can you handle the technical infrastructure review? Marcus, your analytical skills are exactly what we need for the compliance section. Marcus looked up in surprise. Despite everything, Arjun was trusting him with a critical component. Everyone brings different strengths to this challenge, Arjun continued, mapping out assignments with precision. If we support each other and communicate openly, we can not only save this contract, we can strengthen it. For the first time since Arjun's arrival, Marcus found himself genuinely impressed by his new boss's leadership under pressure. Thursday evening, 11:47 p.m. The office was eerily quiet except for the hum of computers and the occasional rustle of papers. Empty coffee cups and takeout containers littered every desk as the team pushed through their final night of preparation. Marcus rubbed his tired eyes, staring at spreadsheets that seemed to blur together. Across the room, Arjun was still working, cross-referencing data with the same focused intensity he'd maintained for 4 straight days. Here, Arjun appeared beside Marcus's desk with a fresh cup of tea. "Chai. It'll help with the fatigue." Marcus looked up, surprised by the gesture. "Thanks. I think I found the discrepancy in section 12. Show me." For the next hour, they worked side by side, Marcus explaining his analysis while Arjun listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering suggestions. Despite his exhaustion, Marcus realized he was actually enjoying the collaboration. Friday morning arrived with nervous energy. The presentation to Meridian Industries was scheduled for 2 p.m. The entire team gathered one final time to review their work. "Ladies and gentlemen," Arjun addressed the group, "what you've accomplished in 4 days is remarkable. Not just the quality of work, but how you've supported each other." At 4:30 p.m., Patricia's phone rang. The team held their breath as she listened to the voice on the other end. Her expression shifted from tension to disbelief, then to pure joy. "They're not just keeping the contract," she announced, her voice cracking with emotion. "Meridian wants to expand it by 40%. They said they've never seen such thorough collaborative work." The room erupted in cheers, high fives, and relieved laughter. Marcus found himself clapping Arjun on the shoulder, genuine gratitude replacing his former resentment. "We did it," Marcus said, meeting Arjun's eyes. "We actually did it." The celebration had died down, and most of the team had gone home to recover from their marathon week. Marcus was packing up his desk when he heard a gentle knock on his cubicle wall. "Marcus, could I have a word with you in my office?" The walk down the hallway felt like the longest 30 seconds of Marcus's life. He'd been dreading this conversation all week, knowing it was inevitable. His stomach churned as they entered Arjun's office. Formerly Jenkins' cramped space, now organized with family photos and a small plant on the windowsill. "Please sit," Arjun said, settling into his chair with a measured calm that somehow made Marcus more nervous. They sat in silence for a moment before Arjun spoke. "I want to tell you a story, Marcus. There was once a man who carried anger in his heart like a burning coal. Every day he threw pieces of that coal at people who looked different from him, spoke differently, believed differently." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet Arjun's gaze. But what the man didn't realize, Arjun continued, was that every time he threw that burning coal, he burned his own hands first. The anger was destroying him more than anyone else. "Look," Marcus began, but Arjun held up a gentle hand. One day the man met someone who, instead of throwing coal back at him, offered him water to heal his burns. And slowly, the man began to understand that hatred only creates more hatred, but compassion has the power to break the cycle. Marcus finally looked up, his eyes glistening. "Why didn't you fire me? After what I said in the break room, I deserved it." Arjun leaned forward, his voice soft but firm. "Because firing you would have only spread that anger to someone else. Your family, your next workplace. The cycle continues, but this way, maybe it stops here." Marcus sat in stunned silence, Arjun's words echoing in his mind. The metaphor hit closer to home than he wanted to admit. He had been carrying burning coal, and his hands were badly scarred. Marcus's voice cracked. He cleared his throat and tried again. "I need to be honest with you about something." Arjun waited patiently, his expression open and non-judgmental. "My father lost his job at the plant 15 years ago," Marcus began, his hands fidgeting with his pen. "They said it was downsizing, but he always blamed. He said it was because they were hiring cheaper foreign workers. I grew up hearing that story every day." The confession poured out of him like water through a broken dam. "When I saw you get Jenkins' position, all that anger just... But this week, working with you, seeing how you lead..." He shook his head in shame. "My father was wrong, and I was wrong." Marcus stood up abruptly, then did something that surprised them both. He extended his hand toward Arjun. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just for what I said in the break room, but for every assumption I made about you before I even knew your name. You've shown me more leadership and grace in 1 week than I've seen in years." Arjun stood and grasped Marcus's hand firmly. "Apology accepted, Marcus. But more importantly, thank you for being willing to examine your beliefs. That takes real courage." "I have a lot to learn," Marcus admitted. "We all do," Arjun replied with a warm smile. The moment we stop learning from each other is the moment we stop growing. And I have a feeling this team is just getting started." For the first time since Arjun's arrival, Marcus felt hope instead of resentment. 3 weeks later, the office atmosphere had completely transformed. Laughter echoed from the conference room where Arjun was reviewing quarterly projections with his team, a team that now functioned like a well-oiled machine. Marcus knocked on Arjun's office door, holding 2 cups of tea. "Thought you might need a break," he said, offering one to his boss. "Thank you, that's very thoughtful." Arjun accepted the cup gratefully, gesturing for Marcus to sit. "How's your son's soccer season going?" "Great, actually. He scored twice last weekend." Marcus paused, then smiled. "You know, he asked if you'd like to come watch a game sometime. Apparently I've been talking about you at home quite a bit." Arjun chuckled. "I'd be honored. Though I should warn you, I'm still learning American football rules, soccer," Marcus corrected with a grin. "And don't worry, I'll explain everything." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Arjun's phone buzzed with a text. His face lit up as he read it. "My wife Priya just sent me a picture of vacation brochures," he said, shaking his head with amused exasperation. "She's been dreaming about visiting Paris for 10 years, and now she's planning our entire itinerary." "That sounds expensive," Marcus laughed. "Tell me about it," Arjun sighed dramatically. "But after everything we've accomplished here, I think we've both earned a little celebration. Besides, happy wife, happy life, isn't that what you Americans say?" Marcus raised his teacup in a mock toast. "To Paris, then. And to working with good people." "To working with good people," Arjun agreed, and they both knew he meant something deeper than just professional collaboration. Outside the window, the sun was setting over a workplace where understanding had replaced fear and friendship had grown from the ashes of prejudice.